Hey guys, welcome to day 3 of the Mindful Shift Challenge. How did you go with day 2? Did you practice a breathing exercise? Because it's really important to have a crack at a lot of these exercises. They will shift you, and particularly that one will shift you from your sympathetic nervous system straight into your parasympathetic, so that you can kind of make better decisions throughout the day when you're not under stress and you're not in that hyped up adrenaline state of being. But today is day 3, and it is all about a meditation practice. So the reason I have put the meditation practice after the breath is because we are going to use the breath as our anchor for our meditation practice. But first, I really just wanted to clear up some misconceptions about meditation, and probably just the main misconception, which is I get a lot of people coming up to me saying, I just can't meditate. You know, I've tried it. I just can't silence my thoughts. My thoughts just get carried away, and then I just feel like it's a waste of time. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not about silencing your thoughts. In fact, I've never had a meditation practice where I've had no thoughts. And look, what it is basically about is it's about becoming aware of thoughts, becoming aware of where they're actually rising from, so that you can then be the witness of the thoughts and not be caught up emotionally by them. Now, by instilling that practice into, say, a daily routine, what happens is that actually transfers to your normal life. So say you're in a stressful situation or at work and things are sort of a little bit crazy. Typically in the past, you might have got caught up in, I don't know, what someone said to you that might have been a bit nasty. Or maybe you just get carried away with, you know, things or thoughts of anxiety and worrying about the future. But now when you can see after time practicing some meditation, you actually start to catch out your thoughts. You don't get caught up in them anymore. And so that gives you a good grounding for moving forward, particularly in our workplace, and actually operating with a more resilient mindset, which is the aim of this practice. So without further ado, I'll get into it, and we'll just give you a really straightforward method that you guys can get started with straight away. And I'm going to keep it nice and simple, and it's specific to paramedics and nurses. And we're going to be using the breath because we've already worked or built on the breath with the last episode. And so we'll move forward using the breath as an anchor. All right, let's get into it. All right, so a little bit of context just quickly before we get started with the instructional aspect of this. So back in 2017, when I was going through a bit of a hard time, what was actually happening was I was letting my mind control my body. And what I mean by that is when an outside event actually occurs, I was more vulnerable to that outside situation actually affecting my internal state of being. And that's because when my mind actually conjured up some thoughts, then I'd actually cling to those thoughts as if they were real, and I would let those thoughts take me on a crazy narrative ride, normally in a negative way. And so that would affect my internal state of being. I would then not feel good about myself or good about my environment. And so a mate came to me at a really crucial point and gave me some instructions on how to meditate. And I initially thought, well, that's really just something that hippies do, and it's something that, you know, maybe a Buddhist monk might do up in the mountains of the Himalayas. But what choice did I actually have at the time? I felt that I'd tried so many other things, and so I got into a bit of a practice and started it. And what unfolded was a huge change in my perception of the world around me. And that's because I have then sort of gained control of my mind, and my mind isn't controlling me anymore. And so that's what I hoped for you guys to actually gain access to, particularly because we are so engrossed in these crazy roles where we're always busy, we're always doing shift work, we're doing nights, you know, things get a little bit crazy. Sometimes there's emotional cases that we're involved in as well. So how we get started? First thing is your environment. So you really want to make sure that you are setting yourself up in an environment where there are going to be no distractions. So pets away, If you can have no children around, that'd be great. Find a nice little nook within your house or in your shed, or outside in nature is fine too. So just find a space that's going to be your spot. So the next step is to sit upright. You can have your back against something like a wall, or you can have it independently straight. But just sitting down on a cushion, you can have yourself cross-legged. You don't have to do any crazy poses. Sometimes, maybe a half lotus pose might be good, but it doesn't really matter. It's just about sitting upright and keeping your spine nice and straight. So try not to slouch. From here, all that you're going to do is to close your eyes and then just take 3 deep conscious breaths. Now, after those breaths, it is a matter of just sitting still in silence. And I know for a lot of people, they'll find that the first thing that happens is you'll notice heaps of thoughts. And sometimes it's a crazy onslaught of thoughts taking you all over the place. And that's totally fine. When you first start with a practice, you need to understand that these thoughts are going to come, and that's okay. But it's just being aware that these thoughts are coming up and just catching them out and just watching them, almost like maybe when you're just chilling out on the beach and you're looking at clouds, cruise past you. Just have a look at those thoughts as if they're clouds just floating past you. Now, remember we talked about the breath and being conscious of our breathing. This is going to be your anchor. This is what's going to anchor the mind. Because the little monkey mind up there, it just wants to come up with something that's interesting. And right now you're sitting still. So this is going to be completely different. So all we need to do is get it to focus on something. And something that we always have with us is our breath. So the key is just to take 100% attention just on your breath and just thinking about the air that's going through your nose and the air that's going out. And if you can really understand and be focused on only the breath, that is where you're going to be able to anchor your mind into just thinking about the air going in and the air going out, the ambience of the air. What does it smell like? Using those senses to really anchor your mind into the breath. So every time you get a thought taking you away, it's taking you off on a little journey out of the room, just bring it back to the breath. Just bring it back to the air going in and the air going out, and continually just bring it back to the breath. And that's all that really we're looking to do within our practice. So using the breath as an anchor for the mind to be preoccupied with something so that you can then access a different state of consciousness. So how long are we going to sit down for? Well, I would recommend 10 to 15 minutes. If you can set aside 10 to 15 minutes, ideally in the morning and at night, but whenever you get an opportunity, so that you've got a bit of a break at work. What a fantastic opportunity to just sit down if you can find a little space somewhere, maybe under a tree, outside, somewhere away from everyone, and just shut your eyes, even put your earbuds in, don't even have to have any music, but just sitting down and just going through, anchoring the breath, anchoring the mind on the breath over and over again. Now what you're going to find is that maybe after 10 or 15 minutes, that you just feel like you just wasted 10 or 15 minutes. You didn't waste your time. Even though you had all these thoughts continually going on, what you're actually doing is you're training your mind, almost like someone at the gym who's training their muscles to get stronger. So you're actually building up a part of your mind to become more resilient. Because what you're doing is you're training yourself to almost catch out your thoughts, and you can see them from a different angle. And then that will transfer into your normal life, whether it's at home or in the workplace. Now, sometimes after a few minutes, normally after 10 minutes, sometimes you can get into this state that you're probably not used to being in. And it's almost like a really blissful zone. It feels like you're in between sleep. And even sometimes you might find that your head starts to kind of bob down. And that's totally fine. In fact, that's a fantastic state to be in. So the other question that I get is, do I set an alarm? Well, if it's practical, for example, if you're on a break at work, yeah, it's a good idea to set an alarm. But if you can avoid it, that'd be fantastic as well, because if you're stuck in one of those awesome, blissful states of being, and then an alarm sort of all of a sudden brings you out of it, it can sometimes be a little bit abrupt, and we don't want to sort of encourage that abruptness within our practice. So just keep that in mind. But obviously, we want to keep it practical as well. So an alarm can be okay. So 10 to 15 minutes. Now, in terms of your activity, this is it. So I just want you to maybe find a time where you can get away from everything, sit down, build up a little area that you can sit down comfortably in, upright with a straight back. You can have it leaning against something. Close the eyes, take 3 conscious breaths. And after those conscious breaths, it's literally just coming back to the breath. Whenever the thoughts start coming in, just go back to the breath. It's like training a dog to sit. Once you've actually got it to sit in place, then you have control over your mind. It's the same thing. So guys, practice a session of meditation, 10 to 15 minutes. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue this practice for the rest of the challenge as well. So all the best, guys. And I know that for me personally, it's changed so many elements of my life, just this practice alone. So get into it, guys. Enjoy it, and let me know how you go. All right, we'll see you in day 4.